Mr. Speaker, once again, the leader persists and doubles down on these fake, imaginary taxes that exist only in his head and on the talking points that he hands out. What I will tell you.
Mr. Speaker, he says it's imaginary, but it's in his budget. Does that mean the budget is a fictional document? Here it is. Never before have Canadians had to spend so much to get so little. This budget, with its record deficit outside of COVID, is a deficit twice as the size of the one Trudeau left behind, and $16 billion bigger than the Prime Minister promised. It has, in this spending, $5,400 of extra costs for every family in more expensive government. While Canadians are already unable to eat, heat, and house themselves, why is this Prime Minister's costly budget making them pay even more?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this budget has 75% of the measures are for our sovereignty, to protect our borders, to protect our communities, to protect our way of life. And the balance is for affordability, a middle-class tax cut that the member opposite missed because he was not here. Mr. Speaker, this budget invests in Canada at twice the rate as any budget during this millennium. We believe in Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It is twice as expensive as any other budget, and it makes generational debt. And speaking of sovereignty, what about food sovereignty, Mr. Speaker? The Prime Minister's budget increases taxes on food production, with the industrial carbon tax on farm equipment, fertilizer, storage bins, and food processing plants. Sylvain Charlebois, Canada's food professor, says that it is arguably the most damaging aspect of the Liberal carbon tax. It is a tax across the supply chain that undermines the competitiveness of our agri-food sector. Why is the Prime Minister threatening our food sovereignty and driving up our food prices?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in the spring, this government removed the divisive consumer carbon tax, and that has a consequence. That has a consequence for any business, any farm that emits less than 50 kilotons, which is every farm across this country. Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Climate Institute has done the analysis, and the impact of the industrial carbon tax on inflation is zero.
Apparently, the Prime Minister is still under the misconception that Canadians don't use steel. You remember that interview when he told CTV, he asked the CTV interviewer, "You don't use steel, do you, Steve?" Well, of course, farmers use steel in order to produce their food, in order to store their grains. Processors use steel in the apparatuses of their conveyor belts. The tax on fertilizer and equipment drives up the cost of food, not according to Conservatives, but according to Sylvain Charlebois. So is the Prime Minister going to tell Canadians that an industrial carbon tax on Canadian farmers is not driving up the price of...
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the impact of the industrial carbon tax on food prices in Canada is approximately zero.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Still thinks we use zero steel, Mr. Speaker. But on another subject, in addition to cooking the books, the Prime Minister also rigged his GST rebate on housing to make sure that 95% of home buyers would not qualify for any break at all. Zero, zip, zilch. And the Prime Minister, meanwhile, puts a new rising tax on steel, aluminum, glass, cement, concrete, all the things that go into making a home. In other words, the industrial carbon tax is a housing tax. With Liberals already having doubled housing costs, will the Prime Minister axe the industrial carbon tax so Canadians can afford a home?
The Honourable Governor of the House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the leader persists and doubles down on these fake imaginary taxes that exist only in his head and on the talking points that he hands out. What I will tell you is this is a budget where conservative-minded voters, people who think of voting conservative in elections, you know what they like about it? They like the hope. They like the ambition. They like the economic growth. They like bringing this country together from coast to coast to coast to invest in our potential, to invest in our young people, and to grow this country to be the best in the G7, Mr. Speaker. That's what they like.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he says it's imaginary, but it's in his budget. Does that mean the budget is a fictional document? Here it is on page 106, strengthening the industrial.
The honourable member may continue now that the prop has been put away.
Mr. Speaker, they say their budget is a prop and its contents are imaginary. We're in real trouble. Homes take steel, they take aluminum, they take concrete and cement and glass. The industrial carbon tax drives all those things up with our youth unable to afford homes. Why don't they get rid of this tax so that we can bring down the cost of housing?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, you know what this budget does? It builds communities. It builds opportunities for young people in our communities. It ties this country together in a common refrain of hope and optimism and investing in ourselves. We're going to be investing in new homes. We're going to be investing in housing for young people. We're going to build it with that Canadian steel. We're going to build it with that Canadian lumber. We're going to build it with that best thing that we have, that Canadian ingenuity that exists in the youngest and the oldest, the skilled tradespeople of this country. We are going to build Canada. Conservatives like that, liberals like that. Let's build the country.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
After the Prime Minister's depressing speech demanding young people make more sacrifices, I think the Liberal House Leader asked ChatGPT to write him up a little poem about how he could inject hope into his message. It didn't work, Mr. Speaker. Young people need houses for them to have hope. Houses are needed to raise families. Houses are needed to build equity and collateral and credit history. But the Prime Minister insists on applying an escalating industrial carbon tax that will raise the cost of everything that goes into making a home. So with the Liberals doubling housing costs already, why won't they get rid of this tax?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We know housing is top of mind for young Canadians, and we have heard them loud and clear. Budget 2025 delivers on affordable housing for young Canadians. It focuses on affordable housing and co-ops. It delivers on GST for first-time homebuyers, up to 47,000 homes that will see a big reduction in GST. Building all of these homes creates jobs for young people in the trades, great jobs for young Canadians. This budget delivers affordability for young Canadians.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, this Liberal government has doubled lineups at food banks to well over 2 million people. And right now, food prices are rising 40% faster in Canada than they are in the United States, which means it can't be some global or foreign factor on which we blame those rising costs. But Sylvain Charlebois, Canada's leading food price expert, says the industrial carbon tax, which is not only still in place but is rising quickly in this costly budget, is partly to blame. So single mothers, small businesses, and seniors can feed themselves while they get rid of this terrible tax on food.
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
As a former former single mother myself, I can tell you the kinds of things that single mothers, in fact families, are looking for is affordability. That's in this budget. Whether it's a middle-class tax cut for 22 million Canadians, whether it's protecting $10 a day childcare, by the way, a game changer for women, especially for mothers, but whether it's making the school food program permanent, whether it's investing in building trades, the kinds of infrastructure investments that will lead to good-paying jobs. We're here for young people, Canadians.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, since they started promising that program, the number of children lined up at food banks has doubled to 700,000. And food prices are actually rising 40% faster in Canada than they are in the United States of America. The questions I've been asking are to the Prime Minister. Apparently, he doesn't have time to answer questions about homes and food when Canadians cannot afford to feed and lodge themselves. So once again, will the Prime Minister get rid of his regressive industrial carbon tax on Canadian foods so that single mums and seniors can afford to eat?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians don't have time for the kind of antics that the Conservative Party performs every single day. What Canadians want is investment in their families, investment in their children, investment in the kinds of infrastructure in small communities all across this country, including in my riding, that are going to make life affordable, that are going to build up the kind of infrastructure that allows for us to get ahead. And Mr. Speaker, lots of Conservatives feel that way in my riding. They told me so, and they've donated.
The Honourable Member for Wellington Halton Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, the last Liberal budget had a fiscal anchor of deficits of less than 1% of GDP. This budget doubles those deficits, averaging 2% of GDP. The last Liberal budget had a fiscal anchor of declining debt to GDP. This budget increases debt to GDP. Will the government admit that its fiscal anchor is weaker than the previous Trudeau governments?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Speaker, I know they're having a bad week over there, but yesterday we tabled an historic budget to build our economy for Canadians, by Canadians, so we will never be reliant on one country again. We will spend less on wasteful spending so we can invest in our country and build our country, our economy, into the strongest economy in the G7. Mr. Speaker, from Canadians from coast to coast to coast support our budget. It's time for us to come together in this House like Canada. Time for the party opposite to support our budget.
The Honourable Member for Wellington Halton Hills North.
Mr. Speaker, last July, bond rating agency Fitch warned that a material rise in the debt to GDP and a material rise in our deficits could lead to a credit downgrade. This budget doubles deficits and leads to ever-increasing debt to GDP. Will the government acknowledge that it is putting this country's credit rating at risk, not only to mention that it's saddling younger Canadians with a mountain of national debt?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, speaking of young Canadians are looking at this budget for generational opportunities. We are unlocking new markets for them. Budget 2025, we're getting young Canadians, young entrepreneurs ready to get export ready through our SMA readiness program. Secondly, once they're export ready, we will launch the Can Export program to support them, attend trade shows globally to showcase their goods. And once they have orders ready to go out, EDC will step in to support them to get into new markets around the world. This is how we're helping young Canadians and young entrepreneurs access new markets and create jobs here at home. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.